Welcome to you all. My name is Andrew Chung, Artistic Director of INNErchamber, and I've got Ben Bolt Martin with me today. Hey, Ben.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm okay, Ben. We are just brimming with excitement about the upcoming concert, which is called Early, and we'll explain that in a minute. And this is just coming up in a matter of days. It's string quartet music. We love string quartet music.
We
It's a
do.
great group to work with, and
Mhm.
you know, we come together, lots of laughs, lots of rehearsal, and fun. And we got great music on this program. So let's dig in a little bit on this. This concept of early versus late came from your brain,
Did it?
which is great.
Cool.
We kind of chose the music, and then we realized, hang on a second, this is early Beethoven, early Grieg, and then in a month's time we've got some
Yes.
late Brahms, and we've got some late Haydn, which we're doing. So we'll
Yes.
call them early and late. Hey,
Yes.
way
Yes.
too clever, way too clever.
Super
So,
clever.
yeah, the Beethoven and the Grieg for our string quartet, Ben, we've never performed these before. So we thought, why not perform these now, right? And it seemed good as any. When I think of the Beethoven string quartets, of which there's 17 of them, there's the early and the mid and the late. And this is from his first set, his Opus 18. There's six of them. This was listed as number one, not actually truly composed first, but hey, it's early enough.
It's
Yeah,
early, pretty early. Didn't say first, it said early. That's right.
it just said early. That's
It
right.
said
But
early,
we
yeah.
we we tell no lies.
That's right. No, you don't have to show up first to be early.
I'm
That's right.
never early.
I'm
Oh,
never,
sorry,
no,
that's too
no.
much information.
Never mind, never
Anyway, it's late. So okay,
mind.
let's just walk and talk through this. You know this. So our group has never performed this before.
Mhm.
I've performed this with other groups on occasions. I
Mhm.
remember in university struggling with the first movement of this string quartet because it's in F major, and it's
Yes.
just hard to play in tune in F major.
It is. It is hard to play in tune in F major. It's a weird thing because what happens, um, actually this will apply when we talk later about the Grieg too, but what happens when you're playing a stringed instrument, what makes stringed instruments sound so cool and what makes string quartets sound so cool is that the strings resonate sympathetically with each other, right? And so what happens in F major, uh, the strings, any Fs that you play anywhere will make your A string ring. But in order to do that, it's a strange question of physics where the third of a chord, like do, mi, so, needs to be a little bit flat in order for that third to resonate properly. And so it means that you have to, in order to play in F major properly, you kind of have to mess around with your F to make it a little bit higher than you would normally play it in order for your instrument to ring properly. So there's a reason why F major is so problematic because of that those sympathetic vibrations, and that we'll discuss that later when we talk about Grieg as well. But yeah, F major, it's a tricky. I mean, it's a very pleasant key in many other respects, but in terms of tuning those basic F major chords, the good news is C major is also part of an F major uh, key in a lot of respects, which we like. We like C major.
We love C major.
C major is great. It's just
Man,
that
Ben
we have to
Bolt
go.
Martin, the science guy, amazing.
Yeah, that's right. There you
Who
go.
knew? Mess with your F. I'm gonna put that on
That's right.
a bumper sticker, or maybe I won't. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go.
Well,
That's
there
right.
you go.
Have to mess with your F.
Okay, there's four movements in this.
Yes, yes,
The whole first movement's just based on this ba da la da da. That's
yes,
it. That's the
yes,
whole thing.
yeah.
We don't
I
even
mean,
need to really say anything more than that, other
no,
than he just kind of messes around with that, messes with the F uh,
yeah,
for like an entire movement.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of what makes Beethoven Beethoven, right? So, what's the piece that everybody knows that's Beethoven is Beethoven Fifth, right? Da 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 da, and that's basically the whole movement. And the reason why it really works for Beethoven is because what he does, like some composers or some things, they're making up these sort of images and story that's called program music. It's like a story that goes with a program, something that's happening. And actually, Beethoven sort of takes that to a meta level. And what he does is he sort of creates a little hero out of a little nugget of music. He is very efficient with the nugget he chooses because he can then transform it like dozens, hundreds of different ways within the course of a movement to create this little hero of a nugget that is traveling through this little imaginary musical land and gets treated in so many different ways that he actually creates this sort of narrative structure based on how he's messing around with this little thing. And the thing is, someone like Schubert had sort of a similar idea, only he never got the hang of like efficient use of little nuggets. So his nuggets were always quite long. And so in order to make like a really cool sort of narrative structure out of the thing, his movements had to be like 25 minutes long in order that he could go through all these transformations. Well, Beethoven knew that most of the time people don't want to sit for that long, I guess. Well, I mean, people love Schubert too, don't get me wrong, but Beethoven, he's like, well, if you want to have this transformation, you got to have a really little nugget, because then you can do all these things and still get people home by dinner, right? So there you go.
That's home by dinner. And this is early Beethoven. I mean, he had a certain thing going then.
Yeah.
And he gets a little long-winded later on.
Yeah.
But in the second movement, it's slow. It's operatic for sure, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling some kind of story.
Yeah.
It's pretty great stuff. You've said this before, that he most likely wanted to be an Italian opera composer.
That's right. I've gotten in trouble for saying that to certain people, but yeah, I actually I mean, I don't think it's in dispute that he actually really wanted to write some opera. He just wasn't.
No.
He wasn't. That's not in dispute at all. It's just he's just not necessarily very good at it. And yet, in some of these beautiful slow movements like this one, the Ghost Trio has a beautiful, amazing slow movement. I mean, a couple of the symphonies have these amazing, big, dramatic slow movements that just really grab you. And this one is definitely one of those. And I think he wrote to somebody, one of his friends. Actually, I think it was the guy who he dedicated these to originally. I can't remember, Ameda or something like that. That he told the second movement of this is actually sort of a reference to the tomb scene in or the vault scene in Romeo and Juliet. So there's actually not that there's like a program, again, not that there's like this happens and then this happens, but it's like the feelings that go with that scene in Shakespeare. So that's something he actually wrote in a letter to I think it was the guy he dedicated the original version of these quartets to. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that movement, this movement in this string quartet.
Mm-hmm.
So gorgeous. Julie played just beautifully.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's amazing. Yeah, to hear that sort of drama and the way that she moves her fingers just so cleanly, it's remarkable, beautiful. Yep.
Julie's never in on these interviews, so we could really say anything, but we decided to say great stuff about
we
Julie.
we will say great things about Julie, because Julie's a great player. I mean, she really owns this too. It's a very specific sound that she has when she plays Beethoven, and it's just really electric. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
That's true. The scherzo in this there's always this third movement, right? Scherzo and trio, or minuet and trio, and the scherzo's kind of tame. It's okay.
Yeah.
Pretty good Beethoven, but we don't need to love every Beethoven movement.
Well, I mean, it's fine. It's good. It's lovely. It's just yeah. I mean, if you were to put this up beside like a Mozart, like Haydn and Mozart, I don't know if they ever used the term scherzo. Did they? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they did either. But this was like the replacement for a minuet movement, and harmonically and stuff, structurally, this would be pretty make pretty much sense alongside a Haydn or a Mozart. It's harmonically, it just kind of doesn't wander around any real strange. I mean, I guess it kind of goes to the flat sixth a little bit, which is maybe a little, but Haydn did that too sometimes. So it's not entirely strange. So I think it's pretty down the middle,
But the trio is interesting. I mean, it's got a little drone thing happening. It's almost like sounds like a bit of Grieg for a moment.
Almost, yeah, sort of a Griegy sort of thing. Got these drones. I guess, I mean, maybe if we looked backward on Beethoven, it might have to do with like a musette movements, or like those bagpipe movements they used to
kind of a bagpipey thing.
Yeah, folky. Yeah.
Little folky. Little folky. Not pokey. Just a little folky.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, actually, that trio of the movements sounds very much Not very much, but it has the same sort of vibe as the third movement of the Grieg when we get to that kind of folky
Yep.
and yum bum yum bum. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
Beethoven
I think so.
did some of that too in his life.
Yep. Yep. He probably was, playing some kind of drone, few
Yeah,
drones hanging out.
he might have had a bagpipe. I don't know. I mean, he did go deaf, so I mean, this odds it had to happen somehow. You know.
Yeah, we should, I get a little bit tired of the standard Beethoven, picture representations. I think we should just slap a bagpipe on him and be done with
Not a
it.
bagpipe. I feel like
Hmm.
there's lots of things about Beethoven that we kind of have this real serious picture of him, but I sort of picture him somewhere off playing the bagpipe and writing Italian operas. You
Yeah,
know,
why
could have been,
not?
could have been.
And the fourth movement, it's funny.
Oh
It's
yeah.
humor. It's
Hmm.
the first violin is just slipping all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of just keeping pace, but she's
Yep.
got all these little noodles and
Yeah.
crazy funny stuff. It's funny music. It's
Hmm.
Beethoven. It's a little silly
Yeah. And this is
and,
what
and exciting.
it is too, super exciting. And then, again, this movement, the fourth movement, is the one that it's almost there always seems to be one movement in Beethoven that makes me think, yeah, he really just wanted to write Italian opera. This was in his it, like
Mhm.
the fourth movement. It's got that sort of triplety thing, just
Mhm.
like an Italian tarantella or something like that. And then there's actually some movements where he just kind of totally steals that Rossini, yeah,
Mhm.
like out of all the Bugs Bunny cartoons, and he just totally steals that. And yeah.
Too true.
And then, speaking of Bugs Bunny cartoons, we got Grieg.
We got Grieg.
Grieg.
Oh boy, Grieg's great. I didn't know this string quartet at all before we started rehearsing it,
Yeah.
and uh, it's really great. I mean, at some moments, Grieg just makes me think of these, film noir, 40s, 50s, black and white film.
Hmm.
And there's this storyline. He's obviously got some kind of, story going on. And we think of his, Peer Gynt suites, and
Hmm.
there's all this great imagination
Yeah.
happening. You made some comments earlier about Grieg and his impact on other composers and what they borrowed from Grieg and what he established.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Grieg. I mean, Grieg's a funny character because actually, I mean, when you think of Grieg, like especially as orchestral musicians, we always think of Grieg as being sort of one of the big ones. But when you look at his actual orchestral output, or actually his instrumental output besides instruments besides piano, it was actually really limited. Like, he actually wrote a pretty small amount of instrumental music, other than he wrote the Peer Gynt stuff, and he wrote the big Grieg piano concerto that everybody learns, and stuff like that. And frankly, I mean, there weren't a whole lot of other pieces beyond that. Some really nice Norwegian dances. But we actually sort of think of Grieg as sort of a core orchestral composer because it just pops up a lot. And I mean, a lot of that has to do with Bugs Bunny, because a lot of it, almost every little part of his orchestral output ends up in the Bugs Bunny cartoons somewhere. And yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, he just had this sort of extra impact, and this string quartet. Uh, I mean, like, people tend to, especially when I was going through school, history was still on the sort of tail end of everything is linear, and everything, is progress, and everything moved from this stage to this stage, and everybody had their own little step in the ladder, kind of thing like that. And with that in mind, people sort of had this notion that Grieg was sort of the instigator of the string quartet revival in the 20th century, because this quartet sort of inspired Debussy, who inspired Ravel, who inspired all those string quartet composers of the 20th century. And which, I mean, that, sure, why not? That's all cool. I think we've moved a little bit beyond that sort of sense of linear progress, but certainly this piece has, when you sort of approach it after you've played all those other quartets, you think, oh well, yeah, he kind of did it first. He kind of did some of this stuff, before some of those real big name quartets did. It was pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The scope of it's pretty huge. Like, it feels huge. It feels like a string orchestra piece.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to put together as a string orchestra, but I
Yeah.
think it's very possible. It probably has. there exists
I'm
some.
sure someone must have. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the movements, all those tempo changes in the middle movements probably would make it tricky, but I mean,
Hmm.
it does have a lot of notes. Like it just all these chords and
Yeah, it's
open.
big. It's
And,
trying to
yeah,
be. It's
big.
trying to sound very, very big,
Yeah,
very full.
yeah,
And hopefully we do it justice.
yeah.
That first movement, there's tons of changes in tempo, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Tons of changes in tempo and affect, and throughout the whole quartet.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Really.
yeah, very, very much. I mean, it does always kind of seem quite cinematic because it always feels like you're changing, from one location to another location. These really
Hmm.
sweet, sweeping vistas of a sound going followed by a really punchy little interjection, that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's maybe a little operatic, but definitely very cinematic. It's just got all
Very
these
cinematic.
colors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You put some visuals together with that, and it makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense as music too, but it's
Yeah.
like a little when we're piecing it together, it's a little more
Yeah.
head scratching for sure, right?
Yeah, well, there's so many little snippets, and I mean that's interesting when you refer it to Debussy because Debussy's form, what may have happened, what may very well have happened was Debussy heard this quartet or something at some point and said, well, if he can do that, then I can probably do that too, because Debussy tended not to have, I mean, back in university, the joke was, how do you tell the difference between a thing of Debussy and a thing of Ravel? Well, if it's a thing by WC, this phrase there will be no phrase endings. There will
Mm.
never be a phrase ending, right? So WC, that's kind of how he wrote. So he wrote in these chunks of music, and so it could very well be that's just the way he wrote. And he thought, well, I could never write a string quartet because I don't really like to end my phrases. But then he heard Grieg do it, and I thought, oh, I could totally do that. That sounds fine. And
Yeah.
so here's Grieg. He'll do this idea, and it's kind of fleshes it out, but it doesn't go through all the harmonic whatever. And then he'll just jump to
Whole other idea.
whole other idea, and somehow if you do that a few times, it kind of makes sense, and that's how he kind of understood the string quartet.
That the second movement, it sets you up with titled Romans.
Yeah,
You're expecting this gorgeous melody to continue and iterate and
yeah,
change and transform, but then it's just fully interrupted by this
yeah,
allegro agitato
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
middle of it. Who know? I don't know what that's about. It's super cool.
It is cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, it's very programmatic and cinematic. I mean, I guess there's it very very much sort of has this sort of and there's I guess there's a reason why Bugs Bunny cartoons all have Grieg tunes with them because it's very much like you see a little frog sitting on a lily pad and there's a beautiful tune da 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 just whatever, just kind of like they always use the Grieg morning tune for the,
Mhm.
and then along comes a dastardly villain or something like that with
Yeah.
the little mustaches and something really spooky comes along and yeah, just there's this juxtaposition of ideas and we kind of wonder how they're going to resolve each other, how's that going to turn out. It's very very
Mhm.
dramatic.
But somehow it's very satisfying to play, right? When you kind
Oh
of,
yeah.
as performers, when you synthesize all these quick
Mhm.
changes and then you kind of make some sense of it, very satisfying. The third
Mhm.
movement I just love.
Yes.
I don't know why it's written in three. At the beginning, it's like
Yeah.
really,
Da-da. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's very, yeah. It's kind of like a Dvorak Slavonic dance, in that it's written in
mm,
three, but you never really feel the three until well into the piece at all.
yeah.
Yeah, makes no sense. But whatever. He's Greek.
And
How?
then in the middle, there's this strange fiddling bit, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Well, he
know,
wrote it. Yeah, I mean, for those of you in the know of Norwegian music, the name Hardanger will make a lot of sense because he wrote this in the Hardanger region. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Having watched enough Scandinavian crime dramas, I understand that none of the words sound like you see them on the page. But anyway,
no.
I'm just going to call it Hardanger as if I'm.
We'll roll with that.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. So Hardanger. So he wrote this while he was in the Hardanger region of Norway, and the most famous thing from the Hardanger region of Norway is the Hardanger fiddle, which is like a violin.
Mm,
Grab my cello just for a sec.
mm,
So this violin thing. So this Hardanger fiddle, right underneath where the main strings are here, like this, there's a whole other set of strings under here, And their job, as we talked about that earlier, their job is to ring sympathetically with the other notes, right? And so the this folky, really folky fiddly bit in the middle of the third movement all of a sudden becomes it's very much like I would imagine a fiddle tune from Hardanger region would sound. So that's kind of yeah.
Yep. We're putting on our best Hardinger fiddle cats at that particular moment. And we each have a go at it. And it's kind of fun.
It is.
For sure. But I love that movement.
Yeah.
Lots of surprises.
Yep.
Surprises have plenty of kick.
Yep.
That fourth movement, I think this is definitely inspired by Italian opera too.
Absolutely.
It's a presto al saltarello, right? So
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Presto. Italian, what is it? Jumping dance or something, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Mendelssohn did a few of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Presto al saltarello. Yeah, that's right.
And then again, there's these quick changes, right? So he's got this scherzando e vivace.
Yeah.
It sounds like, opera buffa, or it just sounds it's very comic all of a sudden.
Yep.
And then, it's back to this kind of jumping Italian dance. It's super cool.
It is.
And it just rocks along. It's really, really, really fun.
Yeah, both of these quartets have that real I think youthful energy, especially in those last movements. They just kind of go for it and take you home. Like it's once you get to that fourth movement, it just kind of goes and you just I think all the hard thinking is done by the time you get to the fourth movement.
Yeah. You just enjoy the ride downhill. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
that's good. Well, thanks for the chat, Ben.
Good. Thank you for the chat.
Looking forward to this concert. It's coming up April 2nd. This will be live streamed and performed live from Revival House starting at 7 p.m. Okay, terrific. See you there.
See you there.